This is the all-new Marin Rift Zone E. It follows in the footsteps of the popular Rift Zone trail bike, but now in an all-new eMTB platform. Marin say their goal with the Rift Zone E was to create a do-it-all e-trail bike with a balanced and confident feeling chassis while being fast uphill and even faster descending. Unlike Marin's other bikes, the ultimate goal though is a bike to have fun on. The bike has 140mm travel on both the front and the rear, and 29-inch wheels, and the bike is also built around the new Shimano EP801 motor, which is brand new for 2023, with some refinements over the previous generation, and it's paired with an easy to remove 630 Wh battery. Marin offers excellent value for all three spec levels of the Rift Zone E, with prices starting from £4,355 and maxing out at £5,895 for the top model I'm riding here.
Full 29er and 140mm travel, and what is super new that I've never tested before is this all new Shimano motor. So the Shimano EP801 motor on paper is more powerful with around 20% more peak watts than the previous generation, and it's also got Shimano's new LINKGLIDE transmission system as well. It's 11 speed, and Shimano say that it lasts up to 3 times longer than the regular 12 speed. So on an e-bike where you're putting loads more power and torque through the transmission system, that really does make sense.
The E2 model I'm testing has an excellent spec for the money. It's an all aluminium frame, and it's fit with proper trail build components like the Fox 36 Performance Elite, a Float X Performance Elite shock, XT LINKGLIDE 11-speed drivetrain, and it even comes pre-fit with Cushcore, pre-installed for wheel and tyre protection. First thing I was curious about was just how well the Rift Zone E can climb. How does the bike's geometry and that new Shimano EP801 motor cope with some short, steep, punchy climbs on my local tracks? It was great to see some decent tyres spec'd on the bike out of the box. Max grip assegais, both front and rear, for maximum traction levels both up and down.
So there's a really steep and punchy climb just over here. It's got a nice steep gradient. It's got a little bit of gnarly kind of sand and rocks and stuff to navigate. It's typical of what you might find on any standard ride, nice and punchy. You definitely wouldn't clean this on a regular bike. So it's a perfect test for an electric mountain bike. E-bikes are great, aren't they? You just get up some stupid stuff that you never, ever even bother attempting on a regular pedal bike. So compared to the EP8 motor, this EP801 seems to give you kind of good assistance throughout the entire RPM range, from down low right up to when you're spinning quite fast. So the extra watts are noticeable, and I think on the prior EP8 I would have struggled with some of these climbs because they are steep and loose. But this, paired with the geometry, let's be honest, the geometry makes quite a big difference. The seat angle is steep enough to get up some of the climbs and you can get your weight forward. So as an e-bike to climb things, this is pretty impressive. I love on an e-bike how you can just get out and challenge yourself to some stupid steep climbs that are difficult to walk up, let alone ride a bike up. I'm going to give that another go. Got to balance getting enough grip on the rear tyre with not losing the front. And that is what I love about electric mountain bikes. Just make you feel like Superman, and you can challenge yourself to do some stupid, ridiculously steep and loose climbs. Loving it. This is a good bike.
To test the bike's trail performance, I rode it across a variety of trails including open bridleways, trail centres, and some enduro tracks. The bike's geometry sticks to tried and tested trail geometry, so nothing too aggressive, a 65-degree head angle, paired with a 140mm rear wheel travel with a fairly progressive leverage curve. The bike is able to take on some pretty technical tracks, and I found the rear suspension was able to deal with some repetitive hits. With a pretty dialed rear suspension tune that felt reactive enough to take on some big compressions and offer a lively feel in the back end. The Fox suspension on this bike worked brilliantly. The Grip 2 fork up front is hugely capable, and it's got a decent range of adjustability. The bike felt well balanced with its 29 wheels front and rear, and paired with the 140 rear travel, it was composed even on the more technical tracks. The rest of the kit on the bike performed really well. The Shimano LINKGLIDE drivetrain with its 11-speed shift-in worked very well under load, and it's great that the drivetrain is now rated to last longer. It means less servicing and less frequent cash outlay for replacement parts. The drivetrain does weigh a little bit more. As a result of this, the cassette is now all steel, but that's a small trade-off for a massive increase in life. I noticed a couple more improvements that the new EP801 motor has over the predecessor too.
And I do also think it's a little bit easier to pedal above the cutoff. Now, I'm not basing this on any kind of scientific experiments or anything like that, but the e-bike weighs 24 kilos and it's got max grip tyres front and rear, and I can pedal it with no motor. I have actually got to the point where I've been riding all day and run the battery out completely, and I've pedaled this no problem with a completely flat battery.
Now, Shimano motors have had some rattle noises that can be heard on descents. It's part of the design of the motor. It doesn't present any actual problematic issues in the performance other than just an audible noise. It's called motor backlash, and almost all geared motors present this noise, albeit at a slightly different level.
Now, you might be really curious to learn if the rattling noise is completely gone. Now, what's really interesting is when I first got the bike with 0 miles on the clock, it was quite quiet. It has loosened up a little bit, and there is still some rattling noise, but I would say it's more damped than what I've experienced on the previous generation EP8. And some of that comes down to the frame design, the frame material as well, and how the suspension moves. You might just be able to hear that. There's a slight kind of rattle in there. It's way less metallic than the previous gen. So the rattle noise is still there. It is noticeable, but I would say it's not as irritating as the previous generation. In fact, this is a motor that I would totally have no problem living with day to day. And a lot of people don't notice a rattle at all on any bikes. So if you're sensitive to rattle noises, this is not completely silent, but it is quieter than the previous generation.
I found the bike most at home on some natural techie trails. The bike had enough firepower to tackle everything here with ease. Tons of stability and grip. When it comes to fun, this bike consistently delivers. Its responsive handling and spirited performance make for a genuinely satisfying time on the trails, regardless of whether navigating steep descents or taking on flowy single track. The bike's ability to provide an entertaining ride remains a key highlight.
It's got this kind of poppy suspension platform that I remember from riding the longer travel, the Alpine E, and you get this super supple off the top and really kind of playful, springy and poppy back end. It's got a nice kind of progressive curve through it actually, So the first part is super plush, and it feels to me like it's more than 140 millimeters of travel. So there's a lot to like about the bike. New motor, new Shimano LINKGLIDE, decent geometry, and what Marin have really nailed is very sensible builds with great prices.
So this is the second Marin e-bike I've had the opportunity to test. The first one being the Alpine E-Trail, the longer travel, which I was thoroughly impressed with. And this is the case with this bike too. I think Marin are making some incredibly well-specced and great value for money, high bang for buck electric mountain bikes. And that's the case for this bike here. And the fun to value ratio is really hitting that sweet spot of price to performance, I think, with this model. There's 3 in the range. The middle one looks like a great buy. Comes with the EP6 motor, which is essentially the same as this one, but slightly heavier, but the performance is near identical. So the E2 that I've been riding is really capable out the box. I rode it on everything from just regular bridleways to trail centres to enduro tracks and even a few downhill tracks, and I was really impressed with the performance. That 140 rear suspension is lovely and supple and really progressive through the stroke, and the bike is nicely balanced to ride and really capable with the travel. So it's a great all-round trail bike, but can hit some enduro tracks as well. And the fact that it comes out of the box with Cushcore, which is a pretty expensive tyre insert, with sealant, and a drivetrain that's built to last. That says to me that Marin want people just to be able to enjoy these bikes for a long time and not have to worry about replacing components or even getting punctures or damaging wheels. So that's great that Marin are including Cushcore with these bikes. I don't think I've seen any other brand do that as of yet. There's a couple of things that I would change if this was my bike. Now it is a trail bike, but I'd be interested in trying it with a 150 fork out the front, a little bit slacker, a little bit more travel, and maybe a little bit more comfort. But that being said, out the box it is massively capable. And I didn't really like the 38 tooth front chainring. I found that on some uphills I couldn't spin quite fast enough. So that's a really small part and a pretty cheap and quick and easy part to replace. But I'd put a 34 tooth chainring. Hopefully Marin at some point in the future can not put that big 38 tooth chainring, because with the 11 speed I found the gear ratios just a little bit off on some situations. But on the whole, Marin have created a great value and great performing electric mountain bike, and it's specced out the box with some really decent kit. Overall, this is a capable bike and it's fun and it's not costing a ridiculous amount of money. Let me know any questions that you've got about the bike down below. I'll do my best to answer them. And thanks for watching. I make weekly e-bike videos, so subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.